This is the Bleav in Pro Wrestling podcast. Here's Rick Ucchino and SP3 on the Bleav Podcast Network.
You know, SP3, I just don't know how we're going to fill the time today. There's not really a damn thing to talk about, is there?
I mean, no, just all of Friday night in wrestling, a whole 2-3 days of news, AEW Battle of the Belts, Impact Hard to Kill. Sasha Banks is going to be injured for a while. There's a new number one contender for the Universal Championship. Oh, yeah, nothing's happened in the last couple of days.
No, not at all. The Forbidden Door hasn't been busted down either. We're not going to see the Impact Knockouts Championship on WWE programming. That's definitely not a thing that's going to happen.
And Samoa Joe didn't get released from WWE since the last time we did a podcast.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And, yeah. Welcome in to the Bleav in Pro Wrestling podcast. We got a lot to cover here today. We were going to do this Saturday, but some scheduling conflicts got in the way. And you know what? That's a good thing because a lot has happened. A lot has changed since the last time that we were here on the Bleav in Pro Wrestling Podcast Network. And I do want to start off today because so often in the last year and a half, there's been bad news in wrestling. So it's always good to see, well, good things happen. And Impact Wrestling made a home run hire by bringing in Tom Hannafin, which, by the way, is our Bleav colleague. He is one of the co-hosts of the Pay Dirt podcast covering Penn State football. He is back in pro wrestling as the voice, the lead commentator for Impact Wrestling. He was on Hard to Kill, his first show, and like riding a bike.
Yeah.
Like riding a bike, seamless transition. You would have thought he had been calling Impact for years. It was so damn good to hear him back and calling matches again. I still have no idea why WWE felt the need. They needed to make the change there on Raw. And not only that, but bring in Advan Virk, who is tremendous at baseball, MLB Network. He's a fantastic broadcaster. That was a bad move. Made evident by the fact that Virk did not make it very long on Raw. Jimmy Smith has been great, but he's not, aka Tom Phillips. He's not Tom Hannafin. This was a fantastic. The guy dropped an Anchorman 2 and a semi-pro reference in the same damn match. I respect it. I respect it so damn hard. Just really, really happy that he's back in wrestling.
Most of all, he was able to do something that I feel Matt Striker and Josh Matthews hadn't done before him, and that was just have a natural chemistry with D'Lo Brown.
Yeah.
And D'Lo Brown is a very good color commentator. It's just I feel like Matt Striker and Josh Matthews are good. They're just not that strong play-by-play guys like Tom Hannafin is. Tom Hannafin just came in and he fit like a glove. He just was so natural. He had a natural enthusiasm to himself, and he just felt like a fan watching the show. And that's what your play-by-play announcer should be. He should have that type of relationship with the audience that we trust what they're saying, and we feel the same things they are feeling while they're talking about what's going on in front of them. And he captured that tonight at Hard to Kill.
Yeah, and Sean Rossap for Fightful.com, he sent out a tweet about Hannafin today that I could not agree wholeheartedly with, and it was the fact that he said, the fact that we're going to get Tom Hannafin on commentary without somebody screaming in his ear and without him having to say all the buzzwords and clicks and this, that, and the other thing that the WWE commentators are forced to say. Just let this man flourish. Like, I hope we get the opportunity to talk to him because this is something we've been trying to set up since we started Bleav. So this is going to be really, really good. By the way, props to Renee Paquette, because of course she did. She was the one who broke all this. Her first interview, or Tom's first interview, is going to be with her on Oral Sessions, and I believe she said that was going to drop on Tuesday. So first show for Tom tonight, Saturday night, depending on when you're listening to this, and they could not have given him a better show. Hard to Kill, killed it. from beginning to end. We had some surprises. There were some really, really cool spots. There were some really, really fun spots. And I think overall that's just how it was a really, really fun show that Impact was able to put on tonight. And the crowd was eating it up tonight.
Yeah, and you can give quality wrestling shows. NXT has done it for a while. I feel like WWE, despite week to week, not always giving us quality on television. Yet last year they delivered on most or all of their pay-per-views, and even over the last 2 years. And I it's different. It's a different type of show because NXT takeovers were consistently good because the quality of wrestling was just top notch. But I feel like a show that you're gonna remember has a little bit of everything. You get not only the quality wrestling, but you get different types of matches. And then you gotta have that one angle, either a debut, an angle that you bring people in. This show had that. It had everything. It checked all the boxes that people say AEW All Out 2021 checked. That's what I feel in a smaller spectrum. On nothing against Impact, it is on a smaller level, but Impact had a type of show that is going to get people talking. Whether you're a WWE fan, now that Mickie James is walking into WWE Royal Rumble with the Impact Knockouts World Championship, whether you're a fan of the now on hiatus Ring of Honor, who saw a Ring of Honor World Championship matchup and an entire invasion, which was my favorite part of the show.
God, it gave me 2001 vibes all over again. I'm like, oh my God, I'm 12 again,
And if you come for the quality wrestling, this show pretty much gave you everything. If you want your high spots, you got the opener Ultimate X match. If you want a real bitter rivalry, you got the main event Texas Death Match. If you want technical wrestling excellence, you got Jonathan Gresham versus Chris Sabin. This show, you want a heavyweight slugfest, you had Jonah versus Josh Alexander.
I was going to say, bring up the Hoss fight. Bring up the Hoss fight. Jonathan Gresham and Jonah, those two beat the holy hell out of each other. Yeah. And that match was so damn good. And Jonah's my boy. I've talked to him on several occasions before. I was pissed off when he got let go from WWE. I was happy to see him in the Impact Zone. And then tonight, man, I was rooting for him at the beginning of the match, but by the end, I didn't want either guy to lose. I just didn't. I just wanted to keep seeing these two dudes just pound the crap out of each other. And then when Gresham literally is just stomping that man's face into the mat, the whole sequence to end it and get into the ankle lock, and Jonah not tapping right away, which was I know submission, not always the best look for people, but he looked incredibly strong hanging on as long as he did. That was my favorite match of the night. That I love big meaty men bumping meat, as Big E would say. Those two killed it tonight. They just absolutely did.
That was just a physical war. The headbutts. Oh my God. That was just a killer match. But that followed, in my opinion, the match of the night, because Jonathan Gresham, he's just another level of a technical wrestler. If you've never seen the guy before, he's the type of guy that will just impress you for how smooth he goes from move to move, submission to submission. And that finishing sequence is one of the best sequences of wrestling that I've seen in quite some time. Thank you, Chris Sabin and Jonathan Gresham. And commentary did a fantastic job during that match, telling the story. Ian Riccaboni of Ring of Honor deserves credit for his job there.
Yeah, no, I mean, seriously, if you going up, I mean, Hardcore War was a ton of fun. And then, of course, that set up the invasion angle as well. Pretty good triple threat match for the Impact World Championship, which Moose did hold on to. I'm not going to lie, I was kind of rooting for Double D Morrissey. I'd like to see what that guy could do as a world champion. I think it's going to happen sooner rather than later. I'm just happy he's back and he's healthy and he's yoked AF and he's putting on good matches. And then the main event. This was the one that was the most intriguing match to me of all, because the moment on SmackDown that they made that shocking announcement that Mickie James was going to be in the Royal Rumble, and we were all going, are we being punked? Like, what the hell is going on here which is something we'll talk about here coming up here in the 5 count. I'm sitting here and I'm going, there's no way that Impact Wrestling is going to blow an opportunity to have their Knockout Women's Championship title belt on WWE programming. But Mickie's contract, who knows exactly what it is. She's not exclusively to Impact. It would be nice if wrestling contracts were easy to look up, like say NFL contracts and Major League Baseball contracts.
I think Fightful has confirmed that from the people they've spoken to, that she doesn't have a contract with Impact Wrestling. She has more of a per date agreement.
Right. So it was going to be interesting to see if Mickie's run with Impact was over after Hard to Kill, and she was going to go back to, maybe not back to WWE full time, but maybe she would do some more with them. But no, she's obviously going to be sticking with Impact, because she held on to the Impact World Championship, Impact Knockout World Championship, beating Deonna Purrazzo in a really, really hard-fought battle. Both women bleeding at the end of this.
Yep.
A crazy little spot, crazy little callback there, a little Mickie Trish action going on there. 2022's drunk, man. I was not expecting that to go down for sure, but I'm like, all right, F it. It's a pay-per-view. It's past 11:30. Who cares? Just go ahead and get it all in there. Yeah, I think this was very smart booking on Impact's on Impact's part to keep that title on Mickie James. Because again, man, if you have the opportunity to get your title on WWE programming, you do it.
Yeah, Impact does whatever is possible to get people talking, to get their names in professional wrestling fans' mouths. And they did it yet again. I didn't think it was possible, and I'm happy to be here and say that I was wrong. It seemed that the booking before this announcement on SmackDown, that the booking was all set for Deonna Purrazzo to regain the championship, because Mickie James comes into Impact Wrestling. She's a huge name, and that's a huge name for Deonna Purrazzo to put on her legacy that she's defeated. She lost at Bound for Glory. I thought she was going to get her win back here, but Impact Wrestling made the best decision for them, not just for Deonna Purrazzo, but for themselves. It's to get that Impact Knockouts World Championship on Royal Rumble. And if I'm like NWA, who's working with Mickie James, I'm trying to figure out a way I can get a show in before the Royal Rumble, put the NWA Women's World Championship on there too. Everybody needs to take advantage of this and because Mickie, I am almost 100% sure that Impact and WWE are not talking without Mickie James. Mickie James is on some GOAT level because she exposed what they were doing to multiple former female wrestlers, called Nick Khan a Sopranos reject, and they called her. How dare I've seen fans try to criticize Mickie James. Oh, you talk bad about them and you go back to them. Get the hell out of here. Will you stop? She didn't grovel to them. She didn't beg for them, beg to get a job. She went out. She told the truth about them. She went out and did a better version of Evolution, not some fluff piece, something that was really done by female legends of this business, like Jazz, like Medusa, helping her out, Gail Kim helping her out with NWA Empower. She went to Impact Wrestling and not only won the Impact Knockouts Championship, but she's had one of the best feuds going in Impact Wrestling with Deonna Purrazzo. And she's doing work with other younger talent, as we saw with the Ultimate X match. We know who our next challenger is going to be in Impact Wrestling. So Mickie James has done it all and has elevated women's wrestling, and WWE had to call her. So I don't have anything bad to say about Mickie James. She is the forbidden door.
Honestly, I could not have said it any better myself, because I wholeheartedly agree with you. I mean, Mickie James is like the gold standard of, okay, I just got released from WWE. It ain't the end of the road. She was let go very unceremoniously from WWE And not only did not let that affect her, but she raised her stock. She quadrupled, quintupled. There's no mathematical equation, because if you look at what she was doing in WWE, which was nothing, they weren't using her at all. Now, granted, she got hurt. There maybe were some plans. They filmed some stuff with her and Chelsea Green, and then they end up letting them both go. And in the long list of cuts that happened there, and she went out, man, and she just took over the wrestling world outside of WWE. You just listed it all. She created, produced, and put on her own women's pay-per-view from top to bottom, which was fantastic. And yes, they didn't have the star power that Evolution did, but top to bottom, yeah, man, it was put on the right way and was a better show. I wish more people would have watched it, because it really is good. And if you have not seen NWA Empower, go watch it. Especially for my girl Jazzy Yang, who freaking killed it. Damn it.
Made True Hill Heat's top 10 major shows of 2021, and that was done by the contributors of our channels that watch a whole lot of wrestling, and they had that at the top 10 best major show for a reason. We really enjoyed that show and what it meant.
Yeah, but if you look at the other thing, man, like I respect Mickie James so much for, because it would have been really, really easy for her to just throw up the middle finger to WWE and say, hey, nah, y'all made your bed, you lie in it. Because clearly they called in the cavalry, because this is something we've talked about. They only have 15, 16 active women on the main roster right now.
19, I believe it is in total. But
right.
I know some of them are like inactive.
Right. Inactive, injured. Yeah. Exactly. So it's like, well, we could either fill it all up with, NXT talent, because we do have a lot of women there, and I'm sure we're going to see some NXT stars in the Royal Rumble, but you have, presumably we would have had 2 women's championship matches at the Royal Rumble. Sasha Banks is now hurt. We'll talk about that. So that's why Charlotte ends up in the Royal Rumble now, but they still had a lot of spots to fill, and they called in the cavalry of legends and Hall of Famers and Summer Rae, someone that we haven't seen in a wrestling ring in a very, very long time. When Charlotte introduced that on SmackDown and they started running through the list of the names, I'm like, is this a joke? Is she clowning here? Are we about to when Mickie James' name popped up there, I'm like, this ain't real. There's no way in hell this is real. We're going to start getting to the point where they're going to say, oh, AJ Lee's in it, and Mae Young is in it, and the Fabulous Moolah is in it, and this, that, and the other thing is Charlotte's going to go on some rant about how none of them matter and she's the greatest of all time. And then, no, the tweet came out from WWE. The tweet came out from Impact. What the hell? This is so brilliant. And I'm a little mystified that they would announce as many names as they did, because part of the thing that makes the Royal Rumble so great is the surprises that are in the matchup. So I'm surprised they announced as many names as they did. I understand why they announced Mickie James, because that is a big, huge deal. Even when Impact and AEW were working with one another, we didn't get a whole lot of women crossing that line.
No.
So this is a very, very pleasant surprise, and I give credit to Mickie James after all of the literal garbage that she went through with WWE to say, oh yeah, I'll come back as the Impact Knockouts Women's Champion, and I will compete inside the Royal Rumble. I'll go a step further. I think there's a pretty good chance that she's going to win it. Seriously. I give it a decent chance. More than 10%. I would bet that she's one of the betting favorites out of the field that's there now.
Yeah.
We don't know who 11 of them are. The other 11 are at this time. I'd say she's one of the betting favorites right now. And the thought process there is that you could have a first ever type of matchup at WrestleMania. You could have Charlotte Flair, the SmackDown Women's Champion, versus Mickie James, that's a match that Mickie has been wanting. That's a match that Charlotte has been wanting. Impact Knockout Women's Champion, main event, night 1 of WrestleMania. do it. I don't know if WWE would go that far because I don't know how much that benefits them. That would be a huge thing for Impact to have that matchup there.
Yeah, I think it does benefit WWE because what I would think the whole point of Charlotte being in this match would be is to set up her challenger for WrestleMania. And if Sasha Banks is not going to be healthy by WrestleMania, Charlotte Flair doesn't have any other option really on the SmackDown roster. She
Oh.
just versed the next best option on this past week's episode in Naomi. Naomi's really like the number 2 babyface behind her, unless you bring up, Xia Li, who you haven't even had a first matchup for, period. So if you don't have those 3, then you set up Mickie, at least. Not, I don't see her winning the Royal Rumble, but I can see her eliminating Charlotte Flair, and that's an angle that you can run with Charlotte Flair, that name going to the Impact Zone, maybe making an appearance on Impact on Access TV, and going back and forth. Then that's a real crossover. This is not a one-off. I've been seeing the hot takes and people saying, "Oh, it's just a one-off. It's not them promoting, an Impact Knockouts World Champion. It's them promoting a WWE nostalgia pop." They can make a real statement by having at least Mickie James eliminate Charlotte Flair to set up some type of match. And it doesn't even have to be at WrestleMania. It could honestly be at like Elimination Chamber or Fastlane. And that is more than I think most fans expected from this crossover between WWE and Impact Wrestling.
Yeah, and WWE is in a bit of a predicament right now. They made the announcement on Saturday that Sasha Banks, after she suffered a foot injury at a live event in Fayetteville, North Carolina, she is going to be out with a broken bone in her foot, and she's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks. We are roughly 12 weeks or so out from WrestleMania right now. The good thing is for WWE fans, and especially the fans of Sasha Banks, WWE tends to inflate those timetables. Mm-hmm. They tend to give you a longer time that this person's away, so you don't expect them when they do come back, unless they just go ahead and announce it anyway and say, screw it. And, here we are, like they did with Alexa Bliss this past week, and, we'll see what her journey back is. Alexa Bliss, by the way, not a bad option for Charlotte Flair. I mean, the brand splits all over the place, which is something that we're talking about. But if you're looking, if you're looking for a backup angle, there's still a lot of meat there on that rivalry, and that's something that I'm really surprised that they're just letting go by the wayside. Alexa Bliss wouldn't be a bad choice. You have some other options as well. There's some history with Io Shirai. She's not doing a whole lot in NXT. I think that would make a ton of sense there. Hell, I think even Raquel Gonzalez as an NXT call-up winning the Royal Rumble wouldn't be a bad call whatsoever. This women's Royal Rumble is wide open right now, and I wouldn't put it past Charlotte winning the damn thing. She did announce that she's entering the Royal Rumble, and if she wins, she's not going to get a shot at Becky. She's just going to pick her opponent. So maybe WWE decides to go that route and have Charlotte be the first 2-time winner. I would never put it past WWE to give Charlotte an accolade like that. So it's all on the table. It's interesting.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I root for in this business. Give me interesting things to talk about and dissect. And oh boy, do we have a lot that we're going to dive into. A lot of different possibilities when we get into the 5 count. But again, we do hope Sasha Banks is back sooner rather than later. I do think that's the match that a lot of people want to see at WrestleMania. Is Sasha Banks and Charlotte Flair, and Sasha winning the title at WrestleMania this year. That would be a nice change from last year. And here's the other thing, Bianca Belair, by the way, another option to take on Charlotte after the one match that those two had ended in a disqualification. If Bianca is not the choice for Becky Lynch, like I think it's going to be, and you say there's no chance in hell that that's going to be the match at WrestleMania.
I'm saying we have seen zero zip nada that tells us that is the matchup at WrestleMania.
We've barely started the build to WrestleMania, but okay, you're right. At this point, we have not seen any evidence whatsoever. Maybe Bianca wins the triple threat on Raw, and she becomes the number 1 contender, and we get Becky and Bianca at the Royal Rumble. That could easily happen.
I can see
That could very easily happen. And if that does happen, yeah, Bianca's not winning. I feel bad for all the Bianca stands out there, because if that match happens at the Royal Rumble, she ain't winning. I'm sorry. It's going to be Becky and Bayley at WrestleMania. A lot depends on the health of Bayley as we head toward WrestleMania for sure. And a lot, WWE could use some good health news right now. Again, we'll talk about that coming up in the 5 count. Do want to bring up Battle of the Belts Saturday night. Some good matches. Sammy Gavarra is your interim TNT champion. So at some point down the line, we will be getting Cody Rhodes and Sammy Gavarra in a unification match. But what we're going to get on Wednesday, this coming Wednesday on Dynamite, is Sammy Gavarra versus Daniel Garcia. So cool. Fantastic. And by the way, props to Dustin Rhodes, who's out here at like 80 years old, still putting on bangers, man.
I'm calling him Big Match Dustin, man. Every time they bring him out of the shelf, they dust him off. They're like, here, Malachi Black, Bryan Danielson, Brody Lee. Like every single time he knocks it out the park, and he is probably the talking point in these big matches. And he was here. That Canadian Destroyer off the apron through the table was just insane. It's like, yo, Dustin, you're like over 50 years old. Like when you're planning out the matchup, I know you're the one that's telling Sami, yeah, you know what? The big move. I'm gonna do a Canadian Destroyer off the apron through a table. You know, Sami, you're 27. You could take that, but he's probably looking at you like, my dude, I don't know if you could survive doing that. Like what? Then he takes the go to hell, like connect that knee connected with his skull, and he kicks out. Like, yo, they do go a little bit overboard of making Dustin Rhodes into John Cena of AEW with the amount of stuff it takes for people to beat him. But my God, it does always put on an entertaining match, and I felt like this was a very good opener to the show. It put over Sammy Guevara with the win and put over Dustin in the loss. And I like Daniel Garcia. I've been wondering what this was going to lead up to with, the wins he's been picking up against Eddie Kingston, Santana, and Ortiz. And I like that the fact that he's getting a TNT championship matchup, which is probably his biggest match yet.
And it's probably going to piss off Scorpio Sky and Ethan.
Oh, yes, that too.
Yeah. Probably going to piss them off. I'll say this about Dustin. He wrestles every match like it's going to be his last one. Like it definitely could be his last one. He goes into every one of these matches like, F it. This might be the last time I lace up a pair of boots, especially if I take a Canadian Destroyer through an effing table. I may not want to do this again tomorrow. So he's just going to go out there and he's going to do whatever he can to put on a hell of a show. And to his credit, he still delivers. He is the natural. He is Dustin Rhodes. And tonight was really, really good.
And I have to give Diego Del Sol credit because that man was tweeting under the ring. He was tweeting he's like saying, this match got me going crazy. And then like 2 minutes later, he pops up from under the ring and he ran. Yo, he had me dying laughing, him running at Arn Anderson. Like, yo, Frank was like, oh no, he got the Glock. Yo, that had me dying laughing. Any match that can have me popping for a Canadian Destroyer off an apron through a table and then laughing at the same time at Diego Del Sol running from Glock Anderson, it's a great match.
I thought the Glock stuff was so damn dumb at the beginning. It really has grown on me. It's self-deprecating humor at its finest at this point. And they're just having fun. And at the end of the day, man, that's what you want out of your wrestling shows. You want it to be fun. Hard to Kill was fun. Battle of the Belts was fun. A great second match for the FTW title. Ricky Starks defeating Matt Sydal. And then the main event was the interesting one to me, because this was the one where I'm sitting here, I'm going, I don't know who's winning this matchup. I was pretty sure, I would say 45% sure that Britt Baker would be retaining the title. But they did a really nice job of the infighting between Rebel and Jamie Hayter and Jamie just doing some weird stuff in this match. Way too many shenanigans for me on this one. I know Britt is supposed to be a heel, and heels are supposed to cheat and win at all costs, and nothing matters but getting the dub. But my God, they do way too much of this stuff in Britt's matches, and it's getting old fast. And there were so many spots in this match before Rebel finally got tossed that the ref could have just flat out tossed them, and probably should have tossed them. A lot of shenanigans in this one for me. Not my cup of tea with that stuff. It kind of ruined it a little bit for me, but still a really good match. And I do think the right woman won here because this is all leading to the crowning moment that I know you're looking forward to, with Thunder Rosa taking that title off of Dr. Britt Baker.
Absolutely. If this all these two, I think maybe AEW feels like Britt needs probably like one more title defense before we get to Thunder Rosa. If all of this dissension stuff is trying to set up Jamie Hayter to get a title shot, I'll be all for it. I won't be mad, because once Britt loses the AEW World Championship, does he really need this entire entourage? I think her and Rebel fit very well with each other, but the entourage works with her as champion because Hayter is there to be the heater for the challengers to beat before they get to Britt. But once Britt's not champion, you don't need Jamie there. And Jamie has proven herself to be a performer that can stand out on her own. No one bumps better, male or female, in AEW like Jamie Hayter. When Jamie Hayter takes a crossbody, I love every minute of it for her sell and her bump of it. It just always is the greatest thing ever. It could be Rio, it could be Thunder Rosa jumping on her. She sells it all the same and bumps with the level of velocity that not a lot of females can do anywhere in the world. Jamie Hayter is that good. So if it leads to her getting an opportunity, a spotlight on her against Britt, I'm good. I'll be for it. Maybe that's be the match maybe at Revolution, and we have to wait a little bit longer, even more, for this Thunder Rosa match. But I'm biting my nails waiting for it, because this is going to be the biggest women's match in AEW. Thunder Rosa versus Britt Baker 3. But also Thunder Rosa has to get through Mercedes Martinez before she gets there as well.
Yeah, so there's some time there, and I think you could mix Ruby Soho in there a little bit. There seems to be some unfinished business between her and Britt Baker as well. I keep waiting, because Britt Baker, she might not be as hot as she was midway through 2021, but I keep waiting for them to just go ahead and pull the trigger and make her a flat out babyface. And maybe they're just waiting until she's not the champion anymore, because when you're a babyface, the money is in the chase. So maybe that is the point where everybody turns on her and she's all by herself, and now she's got to make that climb back to the championship, and that's when they make her run as the babyface. That might make the most sense there. But there was a part there in 2021 where I'm like, do you guys hear these damn reactions that she's getting? And I'm like, it's really hard for me to understand why they didn't decide to go ahead and pull that trigger.
Because they didn't have a heel that can fill her spot.
And that's
she's the best. She's the best heel, and that's the reason why the fans are cheering. The fans are not cheering because they want her to be a babyface. They're cheering because they like the heel act. So they made the right decision of staying the course, because your end game is Thunder Rosa, who is definitely a babyface, going against Britt Baker. And then you could do everything. Maybe they're saving the Jamie Hayter turn. Maybe Hayter gets Rebel to align with her, and that's the way we get to the Britt babyface turn officially, is that her entourage turns on her. There's a lot of different directions they can go on, but I feel like they went the right course with Britt Baker here. Maybe she's not as hot as she was like midway through 2021, but not a lot of people can hold on to that type of hotness. She was the hottest thing in professional wrestling, but she's still the biggest homegrown star in AEW right now. And that means that when this Thunder Rosa match does go down, it's still going to be huge.
100%. All right. Got some business to take care of here. It is time to answer the 5 count, the biggest questions coming out of this weekend. And we will start. We touched on it a little bit there. That shocking announcement that the Impact Knockout Women's Champion is going to be participating on WWE programming. This is shocking for a lot of reasons, mostly because of everything that went on between WWE and Mickie James last year after she was released from the company. Garbage bag gate, calling Nick Khan a Sopranos reject, all of it. And then they call her up and she's like, yeah, I'll come back. I'll come back and I'll do the Royal Rumble for you guys. But most importantly, it's the fact that for the first time ever, we're going to get an Impact Wrestling star, an Impact Wrestling champion on WWE programming. We've seen the Forbidden Door bounce between AEW. Like, that was like the central of the wrestling multiverse was AEW. And then that door with Impact closed last year. And now all of a sudden, it's like somebody found that key in Matrix Revolutions and opened up in the big white light, and there's Vince just sitting in a chair in a white room with a bunch of TVs around him. And he's like, come, welcome to the Royal Rumble, Mickie James. The Forbidden Door has been opened at least just a little bit. I'm not going to say it was kicked down, but a little crack, just a little crack. So you kind of touched on it earlier. Our first question of the 5 count. Is the Forbidden Door open here with Impact Wrestling, or is Mickie James just going to be a one-off?
I am going to wait on the side of pessimism and say that Mickie James is a one-off. Until I see otherwise, I will say it's just a one-off. But a one-off is still a success or a positive for Impact Wrestling. Impact Wrestling has been ignored for nearly 20 years on WWE television, outside of Kurt Angle telling Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens they can't be on Raw. They might want to call Impact Wrestling. That's the only reference other than that before Impact Knockouts champion Mickie James was mentioned on SmackDown this week. So based on that history, that's why I'm saying I believe it's just a one-off. But Impact Wrestling should be praising themselves, and everyone should be praising Impact Wrestling because they have made stuff that we thought was impossible possible. Their relationship with New Japan was in shambles after they botched the excursion of Kazuchika Okada, but they got New Japan back on their side in a working relationship last year. Thin Juice was Impact Tag Team Champions. Now New Japan is back on Access TV and going to air after Impact Wrestling starting this March. Them and Ring of Honor was on other sides of the spectrum for nearly 15 years after the Rob Feinstein scandal. They pulled AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels and Samoa Joe from Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor want nothing to do with Impact Wrestling. Tonight, we at Hard to Kill on Saturday, January 8th, we saw the ROH World Championship on the line, and we saw ROH Invasion. And like I said, WWE has ignored them and treated them like they were on the other side of the world, not just the other side of wrestling, the other side of the world. And now the Impact Knockouts champion is going to be at Royal Rumble. Impact Wrestling, this is all a positive, whether it's Forbidden Door or a one-off.
I'm going to say for right now, it's a one-off. And it's all going to depend on, one, the booking of Mickie James at the Royal Rumble. Because if she comes out there and, one, she doesn't have the belt and there isn't a whole lot of fanfare around her, and she doesn't get that spot with Lita or Charlotte or anything, and she's dumped after 3 minutes, okay, then what was really the point of that? She was just a warm body. But if she goes out there, she's got the title, and she's got a prominent spot, and maybe she wins the whole damn thing, maybe, just maybe, that starts the ball rolling on something else. Because here's the other thing. Vince is a businessman. I don't know how the whole, all right, if you're on WWE programming, does WWE pay you? Does Impact pay you? I don't know how all of that gets worked out. But if Vince could get some of his former talent back that maybe he was a fan of, but didn't want to necessarily, pay and keep the bottom line where it is, if he can get them back on his programming on Impact's dime, he's going to do it. He's going to do it hands down. And there's a lot more women in the knockouts division that could help out where he's lacking right now, not just in the Royal Rumble. You have, honest to God, really good, talented tag teams in the women's knockout division that could supplement your women's tag team division in WWE, which is all of 2 teams and one you're teasing a split of right now. So for me, this could be the start of something, but it's all going to depend on booking and how well it's received, and if the financials are worked out well. But it's a start, and a start is a really, really good thing. And even if it is just a one-off, it's still really, really cool that this is happening.
And I'm 100%, I will say, I'm 100% positive WWE's paying for this because, like I said, Mickie James does not have a contract with Impact Wrestling. So this is on WWE's dime. But yeah,
for Mickie, yes. But for other talent who are under Impact contracts, that might be a different situation. I don't know. I'm not a contract expert. I'm not a legal expert. I've never actually signed a contract in my life. So I don't know how these things work.
Well, even if we're basing it on the Forbidden Door stuff, when Impact Tag Team Champions Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows that have a contract with Impact Wrestling were appearing on AEW, they got paid by AEW. So I don't think Impact Wrestling wants to pay them to go on like WWE. It's going to be on WWE to pay them to be on the WWE show.
Still might get them cheaper on a per appearance type thing than their actual contract would be. If Vince can find a way to save some money on it, he'll do it. He will. You know,
he don't need to. He don't need to,
but he will. He absolutely will. And there were reports that he was, fans of people like Peyton Royce, now known as Cassie Lee. So again, if you're looking at ways that roster can help you out, that's a big one right there. And that's where we go to number 2. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that this door is open. If the door is open and more people besides Mickie James could walk through, who would you like to see come over to WWE programming or vice versa?
I want to see AJ Styles and Bobby Roode back in Impact Wrestling. That's what I want to see. If we're just talking about women's, I would love for Charlie Flair to go to Impact Wrestling. That's what I would say. This is a real forbidden door, is when we see a WWE star go over to Impact Wrestling. Anyone coming over to Impact to AEW, I don't understand how anybody can say it's any different than what AEW did with Impact Wrestling. If it's just one-way traffic, I don't know how that's really a forbidden door. I feel like the forbidden door was more true with AEW and New Japan because people were going back and forth more than it was with AEW and Impact. So until it happens with that way with WWE going over to Impact Wrestling, that's where I want to see. Those are the ones that I would most like to see walk through, is WWE guys going over to Impact, because that's more needed at this point than anyone from Impact going over to WWE. WWE needs to make more use of some of the guys they don't use on their roster more than they need anyone from Impact.
You're right there. But again, I think there are spots on the WWE's roster where they could use some reinforcements, and namely that, again, that tag team division that I brought up. It's something I've talked about multiple times already, and I'll probably talk about again here coming up in the 5 count. I think the inspiration coming over makes a ton of sense and could create a very interesting dynamic there with, them challenging for maybe even I love the idea of the invasion angle, like we saw with Ring of Honor at Hard to Kill. It just takes me back to those memories of The Rock winning the WCW title on Monday Night Raw, and then Kurt Angle winning the United States title, or whatever the hell it was. The Hardys winning the WCW tag team titles, Booker T, and them trading things back and forth. I'd love to see something kind of worked out there where maybe the inspiration wins the WWE women's tag team titles, and now they're holding all the gold. I think there's a lot of fun that could be had there. But one name in particular that I would like to see kind of walk over, just because I think there's a lot of really intriguing matchups, is Jordynne Grace. I think that would be a great name that I would like to see come over and see her on the WWE stage and take on literally pick anybody in the damn division. I just want to see her in WWE. There was a little part of me that was sad when she re-signed with Impact because I'm like, damn, I really kind of wanted to see her in WWE. So maybe that might be a name that I would.
I
pick.
didn't.
I know
WWE would not know what to do with Jordan Grace, but I would like to see Impact Wrestling's Jordan Grace go over to WWE because even though they'll probably have her lose to everybody, she'll still be able to they'll give her time to have a great match. But Jordan Grace signing with WWE, I mean,
and this might be a good thing for her if she were to come over and we do get Impact's Jordan Grace. That's a great showcase for her.
Yeah.
For down the line saying, oh, okay, well, that version of Jordan Grace would work in our WWE. Another person I'd like to see come back over who, for whatever reason, never really got the run that she should have in WWE is Emma. I would love to see Impact's Emma come over, flip
Tennille Dashwood.
Yeah, Tennille Dashwood. I would love to see Tennille Dashwood over there and flip off an Emelina graphic or something like that to come over. But it's going to be very, very interesting. Again, I root for interesting and I root for possibilities, and there's a myriad of possibilities. I'll throw a Double D Morrissey out there as well. I'd love to see Big Cass.
Do you want to see anyone from WWE go to Impact Wrestling?
Hey, sure I do.
You ain't named not one.
Okay, here. I'll name one. My tried and true. All right. Becky Lynch, just have her go over there in the Impact Zone.
Sheesh, like
be the most watched episode of Impact.
Because WWE needs more talent, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah.
Apparently they do. That's why they called Mickie James. And several other people.
If you ask everybody, no, it was just to make the fans happy. They have 47 women across all 4 brands. Now people care about the women's division on NXT UK. Y'all, I'm sick of y'all. I'm sick of y'all. Y'all are funny. Y'all are choose me. Y'all are some choose me people. Like y'all only choose to acknowledge stuff when it's beneficial to you.
And by the way, he's not talking about our audience. We love y'all. You know, if you're listening to us right now, we love y'all. We're talking about the Twitterverse, the IWC.
Exactly. I'm talking about there's certain people. They know who they are. If the shoe fits, then wear it. Because I'm talking about you.
WWE did have to call in a number of women to be in the Royal Rumble this year. Mickie James, obviously the headliner. Lita is coming back. The Bella Twins are coming back. Summer Rae was a name that a lot of people popped for. Michelle McCool. I think there's one other person that I'm forgetting, another legend that popped up. And Kelly is coming back as well. So our number 3, again, I don't know why they announced all of these women ahead of time, SP3, but we know they're there. We know they're coming. We know they're going to be in the matchup. Who are you most excited to see return to the Royal Rumble this year?
Excluding Mickie James because she's the GOAT. And of course, I'm most excited to see her. But outside of the GOAT, Mickie James, I would say Summer Rae, because I feel like Summer Rae is the most underappreciated of the NXT generation of women. Like before the 4 Horsewomen, all of them pretty much had to go through Summer Rae in the early days of NXT. She helped really form the boss character of Sasha Banks and their like alignment, their relationship in the early days of NXT, which went from Sasha Banks kind of being a character that didn't really have a character per se or a persona to becoming the boss. Charlotte Flair was just a smiley Ric Flair's daughter, not really having a character, and then Summer Rae worked with her. She became the queen. So Summer Rae deserves some praise, some adoration, and I'm glad she's coming back for the Royal Rumble.
If we don't get some kind of a spot between her and Natalya inside the Rumble match, that is just a lost opportunity. That is maybe like the most infamous spot that ever happened on Total Divas, is those two arguing with each other out in front of Natty's house. And then the fucking slap. Oh, dang. Now I'm going to have to put the explicit language in. It's past midnight here when we're recording. But the slap of the century, man, if you can't, they're already, they're campaigning for it because they're already doing the Twitter getting people hyped about it on Twitter and going back and forth with one another. By the way, this new thing that Natty's doing where she's saying, "This is my assistant, please, leave a message," is pretty funny. I'd hope that like they put that on TV, like actually give her an assistant. Like I think that would be something fun that you could do with Natalya, because Natalia's just been Natalya for 15 years now.
Yeah,
Kind of evolve and do some fun stuff with her there. But if we don't get Natty and Summer Rae doing something in the Royal Rumble this year, I think that is a massive lost opportunity. Not to sound like a broken record, I'm going with the Bellas. I am going with the Bellas because with Nikki cleared and Brie wrestling, I guarantee you this is not going to be a one-off appearance at the Royal Rumble. And the one thing that WWE needs, as I have said over and over again, is women's tag teams. So the Bellas coming back to maybe finally get that run with the women's tag team titles is a good thing for WWE. That was supposedly the plan. That is what Brie Bella told me 2-3 years ago, was they were supposed to come back and feud with the Iconics over the women's tag team titles and hold them throughout the summer and feud with a few other people. And then Nikki's injury happened, and that was not able to be the case. If the Bellas come back and win the tag team titles, my hope would be that they would create some other tag teams to feud with these ladies, and it might finally jumpstart this division again, which has been stuck in the mud ever since they broke up every tag team except for Super Brutality and then parked them. Just parked them on the bench and let them watch John Morrison stretch for 3 months instead of doing something fun with them. That's what they did. They waited until they finally put a team together, and then we get Queen Zelina and Carmella, and then, now we're at where we're at. But this division is just stuck in the mud, dang near non-existent. I think the Bellas could jumpstart that.
I mean, Rhea and Nikki ASH was a good idea to begin with, but I feel like this is a better tag team champions to, hold the titles right now for an incoming Bella Twins. I feel like Bella Twins can have their nice little moment where they have their babyface title win at WrestleMania, and the build-up would be entertaining because of the history between Nikki Bella and Carmella. Carmella really made her name on the main roster against Nikki Bella in 2016. And then Zelina Vega is just great on the mic and a great character, and I feel like she would work so well with the Bellas and their characters. So I think that would be actually an entertaining women's tag team feud, which I haven't said about a women's tag team feud since Bayley and Sasha had the titles in the summer of 2020.
Wholeheartedly agree. And I know Zelina gets a lot of, for whatever reason, again, the IWC is so weird, man, but she gets a lot of crap for like her accent constantly changing. I freaking love it. I think it's hilarious. Yeah. I absolutely think it's hilarious. She's very well aware that her accent is changing and it's going back and forth. I love it. Like she's being all prim and proper when she's the queen, and then somebody pisses her off and she goes right back to that New York accent. She's just bitching at people. It's hilarious. She's great. She needs more mic time.
My New York sister. That's my New York sister. We out here.
Carmella also needs more mic time. Somebody who is highly, highly underrated when she's got the stick in her hand. SmackDown this week closed with another, I'll say, semi-jaw-dropping moment, just because I wasn't expecting this. We heard Adam Pearce early on in the night on SmackDown say, "Hey, the top brass is giving me the opportunity to pick Roman Reigns' challenger for the Universal Championship at the Royal Rumble. I'm trying to figure out, who we're gonna be." And then Roman Reigns is like, "I don't care. I've already beaten everybody on this roster. Key on this roster." And then at the end of the night, we get the Shield knock on the door of Roman Reigns' dressing room. And here comes Seth Rollins, big ass puffy coat and all, obnoxious laugh. And Roman's just staring at him like, what the hell are you doing here? It is pretty damn clear what has happened, even though it was tweeted out by the WWE Fox account and then deleted. It has not been made official yet, but it's going down. It is going to be Roman Reigns. It is going to be Seth Rollins for the Universal Championship. This makes no sense whatsoever, given the fact that Seth Rollins is a Raw superstar.
Yep.
Just lost a WWE title match, lost a WWE #1 contenders match, has an entirely different storyline going on right now with Kevin Owens.
Yep.
But now he's going to be inserted into the Universal title picture and apparently can just jump brands willy-nilly, whatever. Brand split chaos aside, this is clearly something that was brought on by injuries. And this is one of the things that we worried about when WWE started cutting down the roster, is for the people that were left, for the product that was left. What happens if something catastrophic happens? Which is injuries, which is people being taken out due to COVID reasons, which is people up and quitting the company. All of that has happened within the last 3 weeks, and WWE has had to scramble because their depth, because their bench, especially when it comes to guys who are booked in the top end of the card, not top end talent. They still got plenty of that, but dudes who are booked like main eventers, it is not a deep roster in WWE whatsoever. So they had to go, crap, we don't have anybody for Roman to fight at the Royal Rumble. We're not putting him in the Royal Rumble match. So here's Seth Rollins. So number 4, did WWE get it right in making Seth Rollins the number 1 contender for the Universal Championship?
I mean, yeah, I guess. I mean, it's not like they had a boatload of options for them on SmackDown. So, I mean, this is one that got people talking, that they're interested in this matchup. It creates two very interesting and intriguing championship matches at the Royal Rumble with Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley, and now Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins. This is a heel versus heel matchup, but it's one that has a whole bunch of history and a whole bunch of story to it. So you don't even have to have them interact that often. They can cut promos on their separate television shows, only interact on the go home show because they are heels, and they can feud and interact with the baby faces on their individual shows to build up to the Royal Rumble. So this works on a couple of different levels. So I think WWE got it right.
This makes absolutely no sense.
No,
whatsoever. None whatsoever. And ever since this is all part of the chain reaction that started when Roman Reigns tested positive for COVID-19 before day 1 and was taken out of the Universal Championship match with Brock Lesnar. That then caused WWE to go into panic mode. Well, crap, we got to keep Brock on the card. Well, let's put him in the WWE Championship match. Well, crap, we're not going to have him lose, so I guess we're going to put the WWE title on Brock Lesnar. Got the different reports that Big E was supposed to retain or Seth Rollins was supposed to win. And now it's just one layer after another. Well, crap, now Drew McIntyre's hurt, and he's going to be out for however long. Oh, my God, what are we going to do with Roman Reigns? We're not going to do Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar at the Royal Rumble because that's probably going to be our match at WrestleMania. So now they're grasping at straws, and they're sitting here going, well, none of this makes sense whatsoever. But, okay, what's the next big match that we can make? And it's Seth Rollins. WWE put themselves in this position, and it sucks. They made a lot of bad choices, maybe not from a business bottom line standpoint, but from a roster depth standpoint, from appeasing the fans, the goodwill of the fans standpoint. They made a lot of bad decisions over the last 18 to 24 months. So they have made their bed, and now they have to lie in it. But that said, the build ain't going to make a damn bit of sense. At the end of the day, though, the Royal Rumble is going to be a fantastic pay-per-view because we're getting freaking Mickie James, the Royal Rumble, number 1. Number 2, we're finally getting Brock and Bobby Lashley, and now we're getting Seth and Roman. So the journey there is like making somebody sit down and watch Happy Talk for 12 straight hours.
I mean, the
destination is going to be the land of milk and honey.
Only thing they got to figure out now is to make that men's Royal Rumble match interesting, because everything else on this show is interesting, at the very least. Very compelling going into this show. But the men's Royal Rumble match, I'm sorry, I'm not excited about Austin Theory, the Mysterios, and the Street Profits being announced for that matchup. Nothing is jumping off the page like anything I should pay attention to in that match. But hey, There'll be some surprises. It's the Royal Rumble. At the end of the day, they could have gave us anybody. So that's why I said at least Seth Rollins is one that has a whole bunch of history with Roman Reigns. And although they are heel versus heel, although it doesn't make a whole boatload of sense. Although, no, it does make sense to me because if they tell the story right, Seth Rollins won a one-on-one championship matchup when he won that ladder match over on Monday Night Raw, a
Great point.
one-on-one championship
Great point.
matchup that he never received for the
Great
WWE
point.
title, and he lost the number one contendership. So they could come up on Monday and be like, Seth Rollins has been calling management all week, complaining that he doesn't get his one-on-one championship match that he earned all those weeks ago. So when Adam Pearce had the opportunity to name a number one contender for Roman Reigns on SmackDown, since Roman said he beat everybody on SmackDown, the next best option was Seth Rollins.
Will they tell that story on television? Oh, we can only hope, because Seth Rollins has been campaigning for a one-on-one championship match for almost a year. I feel like he was asking for it ahead of WrestleMania last year before he got into his feud with Cesaro.
No, ahead of Money in the Bank, actually.
Okay, so it was
it was
right
after the Cesaro feud, because I think he beat Cesaro, and then before he got into like the Money in the Bank, he was trying to position himself for the number one contender,
right.
and then Edge returned and basically skipped him in line.
Yeah, skipped him in line, and then we got the whole Edge Rollins saga, which was fantastic. I'm not going to complain. I was there for their match at SummerSlam. It was spectacular. But if you look at the lay of the land, again, the bed that WWE has now made for themselves, it really looks as though we're heading toward a possible title for title match at WrestleMania. I still don't know how we're going to get there. I know we've talked about different possibilities that they could do with the men's Royal Rumble winner. But it looks like Brock and Roman is their possible title for title, maybe even a possible unification match. There have been other little breadcrumbs here or there that maybe they're going away from the brand split altogether, namely the fact that they are pulling Seth Rollins in from Monday Night Raw to challenge for the SmackDown World title at Royal Rumble. There's been other things that have happened over the course of the year that make you just go, is it time to just end this damn thing? And maybe WWE is moving toward ending this damn thing. You look at how much the roster has been cut down. Again, not as deep as it was. So you could make the argument. You could make that argument, Sid. I don't know if you will make that argument that it is time to end the brand split, but that's where we'll end it here. Number 5. Is it time for the WWE brand split to go away?
No, because the alternative is much, much worse, ladies and gentlemen. I've lived through this, ladies and gentlemen. When the brands are split, more people get over. That should always be the goal when you have a professional wrestling show, is not only just certain people get over, that you can get multiple people over in different divisions, whether they're men's superstar, whether they're in a tag team, whether they're in the women's division, whether they're a mid-carder, a lower carder, get them over in some way. When the brand split ends and there's one roster on each show, I can tell you already who are the people that will be over on both Raw and SmackDown. Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair. Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair. Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar. Like, it's going to be the same people. It's not going to be, oh, they're just going to do these people on Raw and these people on SmackDown. No, I guarantee you, we just going to get double of the same that we get on each show. But you know why it's more entertaining now? Because you only have to see it on one show. You only have to see the Roman Reigns act and the love triangle, or as Miss Chrissy Love on True Hill Heat has called it, the Mega Powers 2.0, with Paul Heyman playing Miss Elizabeth and and Roman Reigns playing Randy Savage, while Brock Lesnar is playing Terrence from Florida. So you only get that for on a 2-hour show. If you get it on a 3-hour show as well, I guarantee you they are going to be stretched for ideas, and it's not going to be as entertaining. So I don't want the end to the brand split. It is not the time. It is time for one world champion. It is time for one women's champion and maybe one tag champion. That's as far as I would go to make a change where those champions can go on both shows. But as far as one roster on both shows, I've seen it done before. It hasn't worked. And I don't think anything I've seen over the past 5 years of this brand split tells me that if you end it tomorrow, they are going to be able to fix the problems that they had before.
I think the big solution is for fans to just not get as pissed when they decide to ignore the brand split, because everybody makes a big ass deal about it. And every time a SmackDown superstar or a Raw superstar shows up on another show, they're like, oh, we'll just end the damn brand split. If the rules don't matter. Guys, it's wrestling. Don't take it too damn seriously. Okay. These guys work for the same damn company. They can show up whatever the hell they want. All right. I'm sorry. And I'm all about making things make sense, but I'm not going to get pissed off if Seth Rollins shows up, because the end game here is we get Rollins and Reigns. So I'm fine with it. I'm okay with it. So people first off need to get not so pissed off when they decide to just ignore the brand split. Who gives a damn? The brand split does serve a purpose, and I would agree with you on the tag team titles. But here's my thing about having one women's champion and one men's champion. If that were the case, that creates less opportunity for people who aren't named Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, Becky Lynch, and Charlotte Flair. Because if we had without a brand split and without two world champions, even though they absolutely earned it and deserved it and they were long overdue, Kofi Kingston ain't winning the WWE title. Big E ain't winning the WWE title. Bobby Lashley probably is not winning the WWE title. Would Bianca Belair have won the title? Yeah, probably. Would Nikki ASH? Would Rhea Ripley?
Rhea Ripley, yeah. Nikki ASH, no.
No, not a chance. Yeah. Having two world titles on each brand does create more opportunity for people to get a run as a main eventer. But I mean, you got to think of the people who have been WWE champion over the last 3 years.
Big E still would have been champion because he won Money in the Bank. That's the difference.
Would he have won the Money in the Bank though?
Yeah, he would. He would because he won it over all the top, some of the top guys on Monday Night Raw right now in Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens. So if they picked him over those guys, they were going to pick him whether there's a brand split or whether there's one world champion or two world champion. So Big E, I do agree. But yes, Kofi Kingston would have never been WWE champion. Yes, Jinder Mahal would have never been WWE champion. Yeah. Yes. Okay, but it doesn't. You acting like, oh, Cesaro can't get that random token WWE Championship match he got at WrestleMania Backlash. Yes, he can with one world champion. You just have to be the most over guy on whichever show, and that's who the one world champion will feud with. Because we gotten this before. People like Jeff Hardy got a title shot when there was one world champion on Raw and SmackDown in the original brand split. So don't tell me that people can't get opportunity. They can get the same opportunity.
I'm not saying an opportunity at the title. I'm saying an opportunity with the championship. And I would say right now, if there was only one world title, Big E would still be Mr. Money in the Bank, because Roman Reigns would still be the Universal Champion, or Brock Lesnar would be, because those two would have been trading the belt back and forth. Would Drew McIntyre had gotten the lengthy run that he had if there was only one world championship? It's very hard to tell. And
he would have. Yeah, he would have, because he's the much better option between him and Braun Strowman at WrestleMania 36. So Drew McIntyre would have got his run. I'm sorry, like there is a couple that you could say, yes, they got their championship run because there is a brand split and there's two world champions. But there's certain others that you're just throwing in there that no, they would have still been world champion. Drew McIntyre is one of those guys because I'm sorry, Roman Reigns is out of WrestleMania 36. Your one world champion is Drew McIntyre. It sure ain't no Braun Strowman who went into a feud getting poured green slime on him by Miz and John Morrison directly after that. So yes, Drew McIntyre still would have won the world title.
It'd be damn near impossible to tell because it's a whole chain reaction thing. Who knows how the storylines would shake out or the feuds would shake out if there was one world champion for the last 5 years.
Drew beat Brock Lesnar.
I understand that. I understand. But would he have been the WWE champion for 18 months or however long it was, minus that 3-week span where they screwed up and put the title on Randy Orton before putting it back on him before he fought Roman Reigns at Survivor Series? That's what I'm saying is I like the opportunities that it creates for other people to get their runs. The more the merrier. And especially when the roster was deeper, it created more opportunity. The one thing, though, if they did get rid of one of the 2 world titles, it would almost force WWE to utilize their secondary championships, which have been forgotten.
Yeah.
Forgotten. I mean, Damian Priest has been a good United States champion, but let's not act like his run has been like a focal point on Raw like it should be. At least he gets the open challenges. Like, at least he gets to defend the title. The Intercontinental...
They've ruined the Damian Priest character. He's less over now that they're doing this split personality gimmick than he was when he was just Damian Priest who was beating everybody.
And he was just a super cool dude. Like, there was nothing wrong with that guy. There wasn't.
I'd rather take Bad Bunny's sidekick Damian Priest over split personality Damian Priest.
It's very formulaic. It's the wide eyes and, oh my God, I'm going to whoop somebody's ass this week. The second that they, mess with me in some little way, shape, or form. I understand what you're saying. I liked the old Damian Priest better. But as far as his actual booking win-losses is concerned, he has been booked incredibly well since coming up to the main roster last January. The Intercontinental Championship, by the way, has not been defended on a pay-per-view since the Nigerian drum fight at WrestleMania 37.
Yes.
We are coming up on a full calendar year of the Intercontinental title not being defended on a pay-per-view. It's a damn shame what they have done. And they do this every time Shinsuke Nakamura wins a championship. They put the belt on him, and then he basically becomes a parking spot for it. You remember the United States and Knock America? How great that could have been? And then he was barely on TV? I guarantee you, I just reminded people that he was the United States champion.
I remember he won the United States title. I remember he also did nothing with it.
Exactly.
He does nothing with any title they give him because they give him nothing to do.
Yes. They put the Intercontinental title on him for a second time and immediately started pushing Rick Boogs. What are we doing? But no, to answer the question, it's not time to end the brand split. It is never time to end the brand split. I wholeheartedly agree with you. It would just be Roman Reigns, Charlotte, Becky, Brock, Goldberg, same old, big names jammed down our throats. And then, yeah, it would be a quagmire for everybody else underneath them. We do appreciate you guys tuning in to this, our now longest episode ever. We have pulled the Bryan Danielson and Hangman Adam Page. We have gone the distance here, well over. So we appreciate everybody who has stayed tuned and listening. Please follow us on social media at Rick Ucchino, RICKUCCHINO, for those who are listening on the podcast channel. Available wherever you get your podcasts. Follow him at True Heel SP3. That is true without the E. And also, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, Bleav in Pro Wrestling. We really, really appreciate you guys. We're working on a lot of really cool things behind the scenes here. Hope to have some announcements soon on some really cool things that we're doing. But until then, you're going to get this flagship show right here, damn near daily, on the Bleav in Pro Wrestling podcast network.
The show for pro wrestling. Oh, yeah, Rick, how do you feel about Samoa Joe not having a job anymore?
It's a conversation for another day. We've already gone an hour and 13. I don't want to do another 15 minutes. We'll be back Tuesday morning, 7 a.m. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, everybody. Go Bengals.